support entities, business support entities to help them advance their idea at whatever stage they're at. So that's one thing. The other item that I'd like to report on is through a program that we have now called Acuity, which is a partnership with our library system. We have a business training session happening tomorrow at the airport. And I'm drawing a blank on the time right now. It's in the afternoon. I want to say 3 p.m. where anyone who attends will get to understand ways to assess if they even have a market for their idea. I always say that when you have an idea, you should not go immediately and pursue a patent or build a prototype. Assume that you can do those things. First, find out if there's a market for it. So if there is, then it's worth your effort to do everything else. So that's taking place tomorrow.
Very good, Lou.
Thank you.
Any questions for Lou? All right, thank you, Lou. Team Lou Show, we have Tawan Errington.
Good morning, everyone. On January 27th, Team Volusia had a booth at the Spacecom convention, at the Spacecom event at the Orange County Convention Center. We had a good chance and opportunity to speak to NASA and other different companies in the space industry. We were really trying to highlight our incubators because we had companies that needed to have a footprint in the United States, so we were really highlighting our incubator by participating in this event. February 4th through the 6th, we were at the MD&M West. It's a medical manufacturing device trade show in Anaheim, California. With us being there, Texas and North Carolina were the only other 2 states represented. So we had a good opportunity to really advertise Florida. For 2024, we had a total of 1,431 jobs announced, capital investment of $208.6 million, and a total economic impact for the county is $1.3 billion. And we'd like to invite everyone to our annual meeting, March 13th, at the Murray Husseini Center at Daytona State College. We have Mr. Paul Saul from the Florida High Tech Corridor, and Dr. Matt Swanson, he's the interim president for Select Florida, will be our speakers.
What time?
That is at 5 p.m. is the networking where it starts.
Very good. That's always a good meeting. Okay, Nancy Kiefer with the Daytona Beach Regional Chamber could not be here this morning, so we'll jump right over and go to Jeff Brown.
Real quick, so Tawan, I got a question. So what's Project Golf? Are they still in limbo or are they?
We're actually trying to get them to come in for another visit.
Okay.
That is actually looking at the same building where Boeing will be. That's one of the sites we're looking at for that project. There's a parachute company from North Carolina, and they're actually tied to Oral Aero. That's going to be one of their service providers.
What's the name again? What's the name?
Project Golf.
Project Golf.
Golf.
That's the Team Blue Shop project name.
Team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a company out of North Carolina. GOLF.
Okay. It has nothing to do with golf.
Actually, what happened? How we got the name was the company was trying to recruit new and younger engineers, and there's nothing to do. They ever play golf,
Okay.
so that's how we got the name.
I was just curious, how did that come about? Yeah, that's great.
Sorry, Tawan, I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that, but
No problem.
it just came to mind as you were talking. So economic and strategic opportunities, you have the TRT report in front of you. That was for the month of January. We had a pretty robust month. Therefore, I'll say the fourth quarter of calendar year 24, it was getting light on the TRTs. We're starting to, and I don't know if it's the reduction in interest rates and/or beginning a new calendar year, that we're starting to see more projects come into our TRT than what we have been seeing for the previous 3 months. And it's a mixture, as you see through there. It's some residential, it's commercial and industrial. So it's a really good mix that we're starting to see come in through that process. You also have the CO report for January. So this is all certificates of occupancy that are issued for the month of January. We had 403 units permitted that got their CO with a value of construction of about $65 million that came on. That will come onto the tax rolls next January 1st. As you may have seen in the press and on TV, that we held, one of the other things that we are responsible for is for Bike Week and managing the process for the city. For Bike Week, we held a workshop Monday night to discuss proposed changes to the guidelines. We had about 100 people show up. We actually had to move it. We were in the Atlantic room at the Peabody and actually had to move the meeting into the auditorium because there were so many people. So we had a lot of good feedback. All those comments will be taken in as well as the comments that we received with our comment section that we had on our website during the month of January. And then we will compile all those together and bring them to the City Commission at a workshop to be held later. And then based upon their comments, then we'll revise the guidelines even more for a final vote of approval for the guidelines from the City Commission. So this process is not, as some have been saying, that we're going to do these tonight. We were going to do them Monday night. Commission was going to adopt them on Wednesday night, and then they were going to be in effect for this Bike Week. And that was not the case at all, and that was never the understanding or even in the thought process of trying to do something that fast. So
Is this primarily itinerant merchants that are coming and how they're treated? And I mean, the process, is it process driven?
So it encompassed a lot of things. So one of the first things that we looked at is what do we do even that's not in the old policy? So we brought all of those changes and directives from the City Commission in years past and brought that into the guidelines. We actually went from and revised the process that we actually accept the applications. So now it's all done online. Before you would, as a property owner, have to go to the chamber. The chamber would then collect them all, and they would hand the city a big bundle of paperwork and say, here, you got about 2 to 3 weeks to review these and get those comments out to those individuals. So now what happens is, and that process would take eventually about 90 days to 120 days. When we just did it for Biketoberfest, we got the whole process from the time that we opened up the application process to the actual approval by the task force in about 75 days. So we do it online. So all that information now is filled out. And as soon as we receive an application from a property owner that wants to participate in the event, that application then is routed out to the various other departments that have to review it. And so you may submit an application, say, the first day, and by the end of that week, you may have all your comments on here's the things that you need to either revise in your site plan, or just know going forward that when we actually get out to the site, you need to keep any cooking tents and cooking vehicles away from, 10 feet away from any other tents or vehicles. And you already have those comments in hand.
Okay.
And know that you're going to be approved, or that we're recommending approval with those conditions. So you may know by the first week of the application period that you're good to go, provided you meet those conditions. And so it moves that process along a lot faster because we're able to, at staff level, review them almost in real time, if you will. So that process had to be included now into the guidelines. Then there was discussion about parking not or outside the boundaries of currently where we have allowed parking, which is in the Bike Week master plan areas, which would include residential lots. That got a lot of pushback from the residents. So we will take all those comments that were against it and push and get those to the City Commission. At that time, there is we were asked to look at the fee structure for the itinerant vendors. There's been a couple of things brought up that we need to go back and look at. And maybe recommend to the commission when we do the workshop, that we adjust some of those fees between Bike Week, which is a 10-day event, and Biketoberfest, which is, even though it's on the calendar for 4 days, it's really probably closer to a 3 or a 2.5 day real strong event.
Right.
and maybe look at reducing those fees in there. That's one of the things that we're currently looking at. And then the itinerant vendors, we get a lot of, the guidelines are very specific on what you can have. But over the years, we've allowed, the commission's directed us to allow certain types of uses to come in. And then we also get a lot of requests for a particular type of vendor. And one of the ones that got some pushback on Monday night was the portable tattoo artists that come into town. That we get a request from property owners to allow somebody that does temporary tattooing to come set up on their property. That received quite a bit of pushback as well. So all of those comments that were made regarding that, we will also compile and then present to the city commission as well. So that was, I think that's everything that we proposed changes. There were 6 areas, and actually we combined a couple of things together in the guidelines as well, as far as it made sense to take some verbiage in section 4, if you will, and put it in with another section. So we combined like 3 sections into one section. So if you try to do an apples, an apples comparison, it doesn't.
Right.
You'd have to really look to see where the language got moved to. So
One other question, the brewery on Main Street, has that been signed? Is there a lease signed with the city on that?
on the 777 Main
Yeah.
Street, no. So they are I don't want to say this. The terms of the contract have been agreed to by the commission. The contract is being reviewed currently by Andrew Baumgartner, who is the owner of Savage Craft Brewery. He is reviewing the contract, and we should be getting it here soon. He's had some of his staff in there in the building to do some 3D imaging of the building, and I know that architects and engineers will be here next Thursday to look inside the building. And I told them that you can send your team, however, be aware that the next day is bike week, and so there'll be a lot of activity going on in that building.
Probably a bad week to do that.
So he's aware of that, and that's fine. They'll work around him. But I know that they were doing some 3D imaging of the building and of the roof, from what I understand, last week, I think it was.
Very good. All right. Okay, we've got no old business, unless someone has something they want to bring up.
Yes, I do. There we go, we're on. Couple questions on the last meeting. Nancy mentioned about the eggs and issues that's going to be on March the 13th, and make sure we all get an actual invitation.
Yeah, I don't think we've actually received it.
Receive the
I don't think
information
we've
yet.
actually received an applicant, or that they usually send out a notice.
Yeah, she talked about it, and so that make sure that we all actually get an invitation so we don't forget.
Correct.
Because I'd really like to come to that. That's gonna be the one where the mayor and the city manager give a full report for the year. So just as a reminder, maybe you can check with her. And then the other question is on the sports facility thing that you brought up at the last, and you were gonna have a meeting that Friday.
So we've actually, we've met with a volleyball group that hosts tournaments and runs several later. And it's been interesting that I've gotten to learn a lot about some sports that how they actually operate. So there's a group that runs some volleyball teams in 2, I'll call it sanctioning bodies, for lack of a better term, in the United States. So we've had a conversation with them, initial conversation about tournaments and what kind of activities do they would bring to the facility. Had some initial conversations about how much money they potentially can bring as well. And then last week we met with a group that's currently in the Orlando area, I'll say it that way, that they're interested in bringing some of their activities to our
Okay.
facility as well. We're not gonna be able to host, I don't think we're gonna be able to host them as the home of this group, just because we do not have the space to accommodate all of the fields that they need.
Okay.
We can accommodate some of it, but we can't accommodate all of it, just because of the wetlands issues that we have out there on that site. So we will be able to work with them as well. We were hoping to be able to bring them completely to the facility, but I don't think size-wise, we're gonna be able to do that in the manner that they would like to see it done. So we're beginning to have some of these conversations with some of the groups that bring the tournaments, because that's part of what we need at the city level to be able to make sure that on the back end, we have the money to, if we go out for a bond or after we get in grants that we can get, we need to be able to cover any of those bonds or loan coverages. And that's where these groups come into play then.
Well, I think it'd be great if we just continue to get updates from you on this,
Yes.
because I really am enthusiastic about the whole project.
Me too.
What's the,
Yeah.
what's the timeline on approval or, you know, a definite go or no go
On
that project?
this project here. I think we probably got about a year or so out before we're really gonna know definitively. One of the questions, and I gotta talk to the city manager about, is do we wanna go ahead and begin the engineering process with this? In what timeline and where are we looking at doing that? Because I think once we start getting engineering done, that begins to really, I think, get people excited and now they know that we can really go.
You gotta be able to see something.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think one of the important things is what you shared with me after the meeting is that you've done this before in 2 other areas, right?
Correct.
So I think it's nice that you've got the history and the experience.
Yes.
So just wanted to thank you for that. I think this is gonna be a great thing if you can get it done.
Yeah, I agree. Any other comments or questions? Any new business anyone wants to bring up?
Actually, Mr. Rand, I will bring this up. So a few months ago, I brought up the fact about our economic development initiative package. And I brought it to the boards to be looked at, and we brought actually the application. We're going to bring that back next month. I was gonna bring it this month. But I know Mr. Lloyd is very interested in that, so we will, and I knew that he wasn't gonna be here, so we will bring that back next month and have some more conversations.
And with that, we'll discuss the process in which someone goes through to apply for city incentives for business.
That is correct.
Great. Very good. Anyone waiting out in the lobby for public comment?
Come forward, please.
Short of that, our next meeting is scheduled for 8:30, March 19th. And I look forward to seeing everybody there. With that, we'll adjourn the meeting.
Thank y'all.